Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. As part of efforts to gather data on gun owners while preventing citizens from exercising their Second Amendment right to bear arms, a leaked document from the FBI is shedding light on the concerted attempt to implement gun control without authorization from Congress. Gun Owners of America recently unveiled a document known as the NICS Index Self-Submission Form. This form allows people to waive their Second Amendment rights and join a database of citizens who have also waived their rights. In other words, the form permits people to permanently add themselves to a national instant criminal background check system. And once you're on the list, you can never remove yourself from it. Citizens must choose one of two options to justify the waiver. The first option is for anyone who considers themselves to be dangerous or violent. And the second option is for people who think they lack mental capacity. People are pointing to the irony of a document that claims someone is mentally sound enough to sign their rights away, but not sound enough to exercise those rights. Certainly not a crime to deal with your own mental health, but this should not be used to justify a highly restrictive and outright unconstitutional measure. Gun owners who meet with counselors and doctors should not have to worry about forfeiting their civil rights. However, this is the newest form of leverage the government is exploiting in order to get around firearm legislation. At the same time, patients are now worried that physicians may withhold care or treatment until the client waives their right. Let's also note that the form uses vague language to obfuscate the truth about the database and what it means for your ability to purchase a firearm in the future. Unfortunately, but unsurprisingly, FBI officials kept this document shrouded in mystery until a Freedom of Information Act request from Gun Owners of America was approved. In light of this news, gun groups and constitutional activists are wondering about the possibility of other secret government initiatives to deprive citizens of their rights without their knowledge. Joining us now to discuss all of this, which he writes about in this recent piece for AmmoLand.com, is John Crump, a special projects coordinator for Gun Owners of America. Thanks for being here tonight, John.
Thank you so much, Kara. How are you doing?
Great. So these documents obtained corroborate recent allegations against the FBI about the secret program. I believe it dates back to around 2019 or so. So talk to us about what you guys found in this FOIA request.
Yeah, the project we discovered was between 2016 and 2019. In 2019, I received a document from a contact within the FBI, and now Congress is trying to codify this into law. We found out that the FBI knew that there was no legal ability to do this. And we found that out by our Freedom of Information Act request. One of the things we did find out is that the FBI told people to keep this form a secret. And they said they had other forms that they are keeping a secret that we don't know what they are yet. So it is a very scary time that the FBI can have these secret documents that will allow you to sign your rights away for life with no chance of ever getting them back. And like you said, it is kind of ironic that it says that are not mentally capable of entering into a contract, yet you're entering into a contract with the government, which forgoes your rights forever.
No, that's exactly right. And it seems like it's vague as well. So perhaps some people thought it'd be more of a temporary issue until they get over whatever hurdle they're facing in life and maybe could get their rights restored. But it doesn't seem that's the case. I think maybe a dozen or two or so people were affected by this until it was found out. But looking at this whole situation, you know, some people are worried it could be weaponized by doctors, even if you have mental health issues and you're going to seek treatment, which we should apply as a good thing. But then if your doctor knows you're a gun owner, they may say, hey, I'm going to withhold treatment or I won't see you until you do X, Y, Z. Do you fear that that's one way this could be weaponized in the future?
Well, we also uncovered emails from the Massachusetts Health Organization that they wanted to get this form to get as many people onto the database as possible to strip them of their gun rights. And that's their words, not ours. So it is definitely being used and was being abused. And now they're trying to bring it in so it will be a national law and they will actually enforce the law behind this. Right now, they knew that it was not legal. In fact, they actually pushed for legislation, which my article coming out, I think it's tomorrow, that will show that they were pushing for legislation in different states to get this form legalized. So they were using it before it was legal, and they knew it was illegal.
And what would you say to perhaps supporters of this secret program the FBI had been running for about 3 or so years, who say, "Hey, John, do you really want people who are suffering from mental illness and who say I may be a danger to myself or others? Do you really want them running around with guns, or would you say that perhaps there's already guidelines in place to deal with people who are suffering in that way, and that we don't need this secret FBI program to do so?"
Yeah, there's definitely guidelines already. If you are involuntarily committed, you lose your ability to purchase a gun. If a court adjudicates you of being mentally competent to own a gun, then you lose your right to own a gun. Even though I don't really agree with that, there is a little bit of due process there, where here there's no due process at all. It is a doctor getting you to sign a document, even though that you might not be aware of what the document says, and then you lose your rights forever. I would say to them, is there a document out there that you can sign away your right to free speech? Is there a document to sign away your right to presumption of innocence? There's not. And so why is the Second Amendment a second class right?
I think that's a great point that you bring up, and also talking about stuff that isn't covered as much and kind of secret a little bit. A story you and I have been talking about now for several months. You've been reporting on it as it's moved through its different layers of process. But now the ATF and DOJ, you write over at AmmoLand, has send their final draft rule when it comes to pistol braces to the Biden White House after a long period of public comments where there was hundreds of thousands of people who showed how angry they were with the government about this new draft rule coming down the pike. Can you first explain to our audience what it is and what this final draft rule says?
A pistol brace is something that attaches to a pistol, like an AR-15 pistol or an AK pistol or any type of pistol like that, and it helps handicapped people shoot guns. It was designed originally for a vet that lost his arm in one of the wars, and now the government is trying to say that people are abusing it and using it as stocks. There's a law saying that any gun with a barrel under 16 inches cannot have a stock. So the government's just trying to change these to stocks. And the White House now has that document and they are reviewing it. We're not really sure when they're going to release it. I would guess sometime next week, if not sooner. And they might do a press conference. But the White House does have the final rule, and we've been tracking it.
And I thank you for doing so, because I think it's just another example of how these government agencies of the executive branch, how they're basically judge, jury, and executioner. They get these blank mandates from Congress, and from that they're able to write their own rules, which have the effect of law. I know they have the public comment period, but still, then they have a special administrative court that's quite partial to what these agencies say, and then because they're executive, they get to then enforce the law. So they're kind of their own mini little self-contained government, and each one, the ATF especially, so they can kind of circumvent Congress and everything else when it comes down to it. But when this final rule is released, you say maybe next week or so, do you think we're going to see a lot of Second Amendment groups launching lawsuits, or has that already happened?
There's one lawsuit already brought by the Second Amendment Foundation, and the other groups are getting ready to spin up their lawsuits. Basically, the ATF took something that was legal and without going through Congress, just decided that it's now illegal. So it wasn't a law change, it was a rule change. And with over 250,000 comments submitted to the ATF, the good majority of them, I would say about 75 to 80% of them, said do not change this rule, do not implement this rule. But the ATF seems like they are going to do that and change millions of Americans that own this into felons overnight.
Once again, I guess using the left's language on this one, the DOJ, what are they, ableist or something? But John, it's a pleasure having you on. Thanks for tracking these stories. Thanks for joining us tonight.